Hey first grade friends, and welcome to Mr. Manley's Kitchen for today's math lesson. I thought this was the perfect time and perfect place to talk about partitioning things into two equal parts or cutting them in half. When we take a whole object and we partition it into two equal parts, we are cutting it into two halves. Now, I have some oranges here. Here's my first one, and as you can see, it's totally together, right? We have some names that we can use to describe this orange. It is a whole, it is two halves, or 2 out of 2 parts. Because you can see I've cut it perfectly in half. When together, it is called a whole, 2 halves, or 2 out of 2 parts. But when I took my knife and I cut it for Raven and I to share, I cut it straight down the middle into 2 equal sections. Now, to name one of those sections from our partition, you have a few different ways that you can name that. You could call it a half, 1/2, or 1 out of, not 1 out of parts, 1 out of 2 parts. So there's 2 parts there, but we only have one of them. 1 out of 2 parts. I have another orange here. I'll take this one, put it back together, and set it aside. Put it back into whole pieces. But I have another orange here. Right now, do you remember 3 ways that you could describe this orange? Here you go. Whole, 2 halves, or 2 out of 2 parts. As I cut it, I split it into 2 parts for Raven and I to share. What do you notice about the 2 parts from my partitioned orange? Talk about it with your family member there. You may have noticed that this slice, this piece, is much smaller than this one. That is not equal parts. It has not been cut equally in half. Let's see if I could do a little bit better job with this pizza that I'm about to put in. I'm going to put it into my magic oven and cook it super fast. So, put it in my oven. When it comes back, we'll be ready to talk about how we could cut this pizza into 2 equal parts. We can partition the whole into 2 equal parts. Let's put it into our magic pizza oven now. All right, our pizza's back. Help me partition it into 2 equal parts. So, scream at me when I have reached a point where I should cut it into 2 equal parts. Cut it into 2 halves. Right now, I have the whole, 2 halves, or 2 out of 2 parts. Get ready. Tell me when. Where should I cut this pizza? I don't hear you. Oh, the dog was trying to tell you when. Oh, I'm not hearing you. Where should I? Did you say here? Here? Okay, here. We'll cut this, or partition it, partition the whole into 2 equal parts. We've cut that pizza, or partitioned it, into 2 halves. Now, if I was going to label this side, I could use the word like half, 1/2, or 1 out of 2 parts. Now, this will be pretty hard to eat, so I'm going to set it aside and I'm going to cut it again. And next time, when we come back for math next week, you're going to learn about cutting it again into another piece where now you have 4 parts. And you probably have already heard the name for that, fourths. Let's set that aside. Now, you're going to pull out your math journal and complete page 160. After you finish that, you're going to find some item in your house that you can practice partitioning into 2 equal parts. Make sure that you name those parts after you've partitioned the whole. Then remember the names that we talked about during our video. Well, thanks for joining me in the kitchen. I'm off to eat that pizza. We'll see you next time.